Primetime local news, serving the Lakeland and Midwest regions.
Hello and welcome to Primetime Local News. I'm Callan Dunlop. Thanks for joining us. Lloydminster RCMP are asking the public to be on the lookout for a person considered armed and dangerous. Police say 29-year-old Jordan Keenan, who also uses the name Jordan Keenan Cuezance, is wanted for an unprovoked attack using a machete last Friday. The suspect is wanted on warrants for aggravated assault, assault with a weapon, and breach of probation. He is described as about 6 feet 2 inches tall, around 190 pounds, with tattoos covering his face and arms. Keenan Cuezance is considered armed and dangerous, and RCMP say you should not approach him. If you do see him, call 911 or your local police. The City of Lloydminster could be taking over the responsibility of the Lloyd Public Library. Currently a member of the Lakeland Library region, Lloydminster is looking to take the lead on the library moving forward, switching their model from regional to municipal. Operationally, for residents, the public library will not see a change.
Appreciate the work that was done by our library board, local library board, volunteers, working with the city administration, working with the library staff to say there could be something better. There will be a cost, and there always is a cost, but at the same token, we'll try to mitigate that as best as we can, working through it, while still providing top-notch service to an ever-growing library.
The transition from the regional to municipal model will cost the city $30,000.
Series of steps that need to be dealt with, including dealing with the two provincial governments because of our uniqueness of the Lloydminster Charter Act that doesn't deal with the libraries, so that's where it makes it a little more challenging. It's not clearly cut and dried, as well as working with the Minister of Education, who is responsible for provincial libraries in Saskatchewan or libraries throughout Saskatchewan.
A public meeting regarding the change for those interested is being held August 8th from 3 to 6 p.m. at the Service Sports Centre. The Canadian Taxpayers Federation says Alberta drivers need a holiday from provincial gas taxes this summer. We spoke with the Federation's Chris Sims about the message it's sending to the UCP government.
I'm speaking with Chris Sims today from the Canadian Taxpayers Federation out of Lethbridge. And Chris, thanks for joining me today.
Thanks for having us.
Well, I am on your bandwagon here with the gas tax. What is the Canadian Taxpayers Federation calling on the Alberta government to do?
Well, we want the Alberta government to suspend the provincial fuel tax at least for the summer driving season. So lots of Albertans might remember back when Premier Danielle Smith did the right thing, and she fully suspended the provincial fuel tax for a year. And so that saved us big time money because it's 13 cents per liter of both gasoline and diesel. And that's nothing to sneeze at. If you're filling up a minivan, that's saving you about $10. I can get a roast chicken for $10. That's serious money. Same thing with the light duty pickup truck. It's going to save you around $15 a fill up. And for folks especially who want to take a road trip and anger Minister Mark Holland, take a road trip with their families this summer, it would be really nice if the Alberta government lived up to its low tax reputation and actually suspended our fuel tax. And it would also, I know you're located there, I know it would also help Saskatchewan families if they, pop across the border. They'd save money filling up.
Right. And actually, we've seen other provinces giving their residents a little bit of a break.
Yeah, exactly. This is really put into stark contrast when we take a look at NDP Premier Wab Kinew out of Manitoba fully suspending his even bigger fuel tax. So their fuel tax in Manitoba is 15 cents a liter. And initially, he was only going to do it for a few months. But because it's been so popular and because he realizes affordability is still a major issue, he's promised to have it at least in place until the end of September. So that means that if you're fueling up in Alberta or Saskatchewan, if you head over to visit the grandparents in Manitoba, you're saving money if you wait to fill up there. And that really flies in the face of this low tax reputation we have.
Right, and you were mentioning that the promise to cut income taxes has not come to fruition yet here in Alberta.
Yeah, this is something that's bothering us a lot because the UCP government, when it was campaigning during the election, campaigned on tax cuts for all Albertans or lower taxes for all Albertans. They said both things. And what that was they were going to take the first $60,000 of your earnings and reduce that tax bracket from 10% down to 8%. That sounds wonky, but what it would actually do is save you close to $800 per person per year. You do that for a 2-person working family, that's like around $1,500 or $1,600. Now they've kicked that promise can way down the road. They're saying they're only going to get to this in 2026. And even then, it's only going to be down to 9%. That's not what they promised or what they campaigned on. And so we're really kind of tapping our watch here, saying, where is it? Where are our lower taxes?
A common refrain from provincial governments when things aren't quite going the way they promised is to blame the feds. Is there, federal liability here in this issue?
Oh, for sure. We have to give Premier Daniel Smith a lot of credit and Saskatchewan Premier Scott Moe when it comes to standing up for Western Canada. And we fully support them when they do that. When we see Daniel Smith putting the boots to Prime Minister Trudeau over things like the carbon tax or attacking our energy sector, anything like that that's really getting up in Alberta's grill, we completely support her. Same goes for Premier Scott Moe. That was a bold move with him saying, you know what, I'm not collecting your carbon tax on home heating. Like, that was really good. And so this is where it's one of those things where it's like, okay, we really support you doing that. But it's one of those situations almost where if you see a friend screwing up, it's still up to you to tell them they're screwing up and saying, hey, you promised this, you said lower taxes, here's what you can do here close to home. And again, credit where it's due. Premier Smith suspended the fuel tax for an entire year. Like, that saved big time money. And she did so for affordability reasons. It wasn't because of some technicality based on the price of a barrel of oil, which is technically the legislation. No, she said out loud, this is for affordability. She saw that prices were too high for food, for fuel, for housing, all that stuff. Much of it caused by the federal government. And so she wanted to give provincial relief. So again, we're just reminding her that we would really like to see the same thing happen this summer because it would save people money this summer and right now.
That would be very nice to see. I do a lot of highway traveling. So thanks very much for joining me, Chris, and for shedding some insight on the tax issue that we're all facing. And going forward, I hope they listen.
I hope so too. You bet. Thanks for having us.
Battleford's Lloydminster's MP Rosemary Faulk is preparing for a busy summer. Stacey Comer spoke with her today to find out what she has planned and her thoughts on the recent Conservative by-election victory in Ontario.
We have a special guest today on Primetime Local News. The MP for the Battleford's Lloydminster, Rosemary Faulk, is here. Rosemary, thank you so much for taking time out of your schedule to join me.
Absolutely, yes, thanks for having me.
Well, I know you have a busy summer ahead, and we'll talk about that, but first I want to talk about the Conservative victory in the by-election this week. What has that done for the party, and how do you feel about that?
Yeah, I think it's great. I mean, this is a riding, Toronto-St. Paul's, that we haven't held since 30 years ago, a long time ago. And I think, what this says is Canadians really want to axe the tax, build the homes, fix the budget, and stop the crime. And I think it's evident, especially with Jagmeet Singh and the NDP propping up the Trudeau Liberals over and over and over again, that has been made very clear that they're not on the right path that Canadians want.
So how do you build on this momentum now and keep it going until the next election?
That's a great question, right? I think also too that this is an example and evidence that Conservatives have been listening to Canadians. They're hearing the concerns from people all across Canada, even in those ridings that are maybe strongholds for the NDP or the Liberals. And I think it's also evident that their representatives may not be listening to them and taking their concerns to Ottawa. And I think, as long as we keep listening and introducing ideas or pieces of legislation in the House of Commons that reflects what Canadians want, I think that's one way to keep momentum going.
Well, let's talk about you personally now. I know we have the summer, which most people get to relax in the summer, but it doesn't sound like that's the case for you, Rosemary. Tell me about what's happening for you for the summer.
Yeah, I mean, every community has, their community days. Sometimes they have parades or their fairs or those type of things. So I know there's the Blueberry Festival in St. Walburg, which will be in August. There's a couple parades. Battleford has their parade in August, as does North Battleford. I've made my way up to Frenchman Butte. I know they have their parade also in August. And then we have Colonial Days here too, coming up shortly, like in a couple of weeks. So we're kind of everywhere within the riding this summer, and also to meeting with constituents, listening to their concerns, small businesses, and that type of thing. So my office is very, very busy in the summer months.
Well, let's talk about the session that just wrapped, Rosemary. What are some of the things that you feel like you've accomplished personally and then also as a party?
Absolutely. So personally for myself, I had my private members bill, which was to create an adoption benefit for families that adopt or have children through surrogacy. So that was kind of wrapped up. The Liberals did take it. They put it in their fall economic statement. So I'm awaiting for royal assent on that and when that becomes law. With the party, I mean, when we look as Conservatives, we've opposed Justin Trudeau's inflationary spending at every turn and every time that he's produced that. We've also, exposed corruption within the government, whether it was with the McKinsey contracts that were being handed out to government Liberal insiders, the Green Slush Fund, which was billions of dollars, the Arrive scam app. There was these things that Conservatives pushed at committee that actually brought to light, and we had seen. We also had the opportunity to promote and introduce different types of legislation through private members' bills. So some of them was getting rid of the unconstitutional plastics ban. We know that what the court has said about that. Removing the GST off the carbon tax, doing these things to make life more affordable and easier for Canadians. The most recent that comes to mind is we offered and suggested that the government remove fuel tax off of gas and diesel from May long to September long, just to give a break, to Canadians. I mean, that adds up to like 35 cents a liter, just, something so that they can go and have time for themselves this summer. But we do know that the Liberals said that basically Canadians that are taking road trips with their families are encouraging and letting the planet burn. So that's where the Liberals are definitely sitting on this, and we just want to make life affordable again for Canadians.
So now what about once you get through the summer, because I know we're going to blink and it's going to be over, and then you're heading back for the next session. Have you thought that far ahead, Rosemary? Have you started making plans, or do you want to just try and get through the summer first and then go?
I want to try to get through the summer, but I can tell you that September is starting to get booked up, and then we'll be back. Also recognizing we are in a minority parliament. I mean, we know that the NDP has said that they will hold on till Justin Trudeau says, let's go. But you never know, especially with this last win. Who knows? I mean, I think with this last win, it's evident that Justin Trudeau needs to call an election now and have a referendum on his carbon tax, because I think we know what side Canadians are on. And they want an election. I hear from constituents all the time. It's time for an election. It's time for an election.
Well, and that was going to lead me to my next question, Rosemary. Obviously, you're out and about. You get emails, you get letters and phone calls. And what seems to be the hot button items in this constituency that people are talking to you about? Yeah,
majority carbon tax. I would say that's number one issue, which ties into affordability. Everywhere I go, I just hear how life has gotten so expensive, whether it's rent, whether it's groceries, whether it's fuel, it's everything has just gotten more and more expensive. And again, Canadians are just needing a break. And this is where I think it leads into why aren't we having an election? We need to have an election like yesterday. Yeah.
All right. Well, Rosemary, I really appreciate your time coming in. As I said, I know you are so busy. If people are looking to either contact you, if they want to just send you an email and let their opinions be known on certain issues, or contact you, what's the best way that they can do that, and so that you are hearing their voices if you don't have time to meet them?
Absolutely. So they can call my local office here. Even if they call Ottawa, we can get that sorted out, and I can get back to them. Email is great too, but I also send out quite regularly little mailers, and you can kind of have your say, fill it out, and send it back to me. We, myself and my office staff, have an opportunity to look through those, and sometimes meetings come out of that, or tours of, if it's a small business or an organization, come out of that. So it's really important to be able to be involved and have opinions and have two-way conversations.
Well, Rosemary, thank you so much for joining me. I wish you a good summer. I'm sure we'll see you around at a number of events anyways.
For sure.
But thanks for coming in today.
Yes, thank you so much for having me.
And we'll have more primetime local news after the break. With the CPCA now into the final week before the Calgary Stampede and the NACC Championship, drivers look to grab some standing points at Onion Lake. Our Thomas Wildman has more.
Today I'm joined by Brinley Hassan, the radio voice for the CPCA, and she is here today to talk about the races that just took place at Wainwright Stampede this past weekend and the upcoming races that will be in Onion Lake. And so thank you so much for being with me today, Brinley.
Hey Thomas, thanks for having me.
And so Brinley, it was a fantastic weekend, lots of sun. How was the Wainwright Stampede and all the CPCA races that took place there?
I mean, they really put on a fantastic show down there in Wainwright between the pro rodeo, the midway, and the wagons being there. There's definitely a lot happening. As far as the races went, it was just a fantastic weekend. We had some really neck-to-neck competition that kept things interesting between Ryan Baptiste and Logan Gorst. Unfortunately for Ryan, Logan kind of edged him out that last day, and he ended up winning by 0.06 of a second, which, I mean, it just goes to show how tight these races were.
And so with Logan Gorst winning Wainwright, that means that he has been in the top 2 of the first 3 shows of the CPCA season. What has led to his dominance so far to start out the season?
I mean, yeah, he's won 2 out of 3 shows now, so it's definitely a great start for him. He is just all business. You look at the team that he has in front of his wagon, and I mean, just incredible horsepower and then fantastic driving on his behalf. He gets to that top barrel and he can really turn these horses on a dime, and that sets him ahead of all the other competition because he's out on the track when these guys are still barreling.
And you mentioned that Ryan Baptiste was up there in the aggregate at Wainwright. Who are some other drivers that did really well at Wainwright and are starting to get their feet under them as the season begins to get into the middle part of the year?
It was actually a really fun kind of shakeup that we saw in Wainwright. We had Colby Stanley take 3rd in the aggregate, followed by Brad McMahon and Amber LaRue. And that's a little bit different compared to kind of the guys that we usually see in that top 5. So I'm sure they're very happy walking away from this weekend. Colby's kind of still at the beginning end of his career in the driver's box. He's been driving for a couple years now, but it really takes a long time to put together a couple cohesive outfits that run well together. Brad's making his return back to the CPCA from the other association. He ran there last year, so I'm sure he's feeling happy too. And Amber, I think this is kind of a first for her career to be finishing so high up, a top 5 finish in the aggregate. So I talked to her the last day and she was definitely really pleased with that performance as well.
And so next up on the CPCA Tour is Onion Lake. Last year they got hit by some really hard rains, but this year hopefully it'll be a much nicer weekend for them for this Canada Day long weekend.
What we just were at in Wainwright, it's quite a shorter track compared to what we have in Onion Lake. Onion Lake is a longer track, and it really stands to show, you know, yes, these guys might have the speed and the horsepower coming out of the barrels, but do they have the stamina to make it in front of everyone in front of, like, on that longer track? We raced 3 days there, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, all at 6:30 p.m. And Onion Lake is another spot where they put on a great show. They have really nice facilities there, a nice grandstand, and they have pony chuck wagons and chariots going on all weekend as well. They have some foot races, all sorts of things going on. I know that they also have fireworks and that kind of thing on Monday, unfortunately after the races are already gone, but they put on a really nice show for Canada Day weekend.
Thank you so much for all the information today, Brinley, and we definitely look forward to another fantastic set of races at Onion Lake this weekend.
Thanks so much for having me. I hope to see you guys at the races.
Now let's take a look at your agriculture prices. Unfortunately, that is all the time we have today for Primetime Local News. Thanks so much for watching, and have a great night.